Rogue Warriors. They don't want to go into the straight 5v5s. I feel like that's not their strong suit. But what they should do is try to get top lane Flandre ahead and set him up for a successful split push. This is how they win games.
Carry Flandre has been massive in the past, and when Snake look to team fights, it's through flanking and collapsing through multiple directions. And while it might be a sweltering summer day in the Chongqing Arena, the heat will be the hottest on the Rift. As we enter into picks and bans, Olaf, Gnar, and Alistar taken away from SOFM, Flandre, and Maestro, who will be following with Light. And again, there's the Rakan and Kled. Surprise, surprise. I love how even when teams have counter picks for Doinby's Kled, they still just ban it away. You don't want him to play it.
You don't challenge an 100% champion. You give the man the respect that he deserves. And I really like what Rogue Warriors are doing right now. They're putting a lot of respect on the table. Olaf is one of SOFM's best picks. It is a traditional stronghouse pick for him. And he's recently been going back to the Camille quite often. So taking that away from him as well. Trying to set themselves up with a strong jungler composition against Snake. The Akali is the big one that we're waiting for.
Let's see if it gets locked in. Akali is so strong right now. The second tick of perfect execution does so much damage, and it does get locked in alongside of Varus. Immediately, Guogo says, all right, we're not going to take the 1v1 matchup against Doinby. We're going to take ourselves a tank who can support the team with Galio.
Look at how fast these ban picks are actually running through. Rogue Warriors have definitely thought about all this. Akali, another takeaway from Snake, because Flandre actually played Akali towards the top side of the map. It was one of his picks, I believe, against OMG. So Rogue Warriors are coming in doing a lot of homeworks, and they're also locking in a strong bot side as well. This has been the kryptonite to Snake's strategy overall, and I do really like the adaptations. Now, the Fiora is a bit of a weird pick.
Yeah, to me that says that they're thinking the Akali's going top, and they want the Fiora to try taking the lane matchup because Riposte is just so good at denying her damage. Well,
I'd say yes and no. Riposte is actually, you can hold on to the ultimate, so I actually see this more as a Gangplank setup. So you're talking about Holder, their new top laner. He came over from the ES Sharks, and even though that team actually had a negative win rate in Champions Korea, they had a very good win rate with Holder's Gangplank into the top lane. Now, his Gangplank was over 73% win rate, and one of those fringe counter picks that Flandre does play against the Gangplank would be that Fiora.
We'll see what Flandre gets to tank. His Jax is banned away, so trying to limit his carry champion pool in the top lane, taking away that Akali, getting the Fiora and Jax off the board. And again, the priority towards Light for Snake. We said they're a team that likes to focus on mid and top lane through their jungle during the early laning phase, but they've got themselves a Galio. They've got themselves a Tom Kench to keep that Kai'Sa safe. Could this be Snake saying, hey, we're actually going to play to the bottom lane this time?
Well, I think Kai'Sa is one of those picks that you actually don't expect to get much out of her laning phase in terms of just pushing the lane priority in that matter. So once again, Light is being put on that insurance policy. He's going to come in towards the later half of the game and still provide large amounts of damage. On Rogue Warriors' side, they're going all in on the initiations. Varus provides that, Camille does that, and they were thinking about possibly going for the Jarvan top lane pick, finally settling on the Gragas. So we haven't seen Gragas is going mid. It must mean that this will be the Gragas top lane for Holder, and then the Akali going once more into the mid lane.
And that does give Flandre counter pick into that top lane, as we're getting a bit of a cheeky hover from Maestro. We'll see whether or not that gets locked in as Snake looks to round out their composition. Even Stakes got himself a bit of a laugh as he sees that. The Gangplank makes a lot more sense and sets up rather well against the Gragas and does get locked in. So there still is some opportunity for SOFM to look towards the top lane if he decides to. And again, plenty of gank set up with that Galio in the mid lane, plus the Magic Shield, great against Akali if you can survive the initial burst.
So there is a potential for flex picking right here. Rogue Warriors could decide to put the Gragas into the jungle and then have Camille in the top side, or they could swap it around and have it the other way. However, I do like the Gangplank pick away from Flandre. It's one of his better champions as well. And in a scenario where a lot of these strong counter picks have been taken away, remember Holder is more of a carry-oriented top laner opposed to Mouse. then I feel like the Gameplink is in a relatively safe spot to be taken away.
It also provides that late game scaling that we were talking about. Snake, they like to play towards the late game. They like to play towards that 20-plus minute mark as the coaches shake hands with a smile on lap and head backstage. It seems like both teams got the strategies that they wanted. You've got the bowl-over composition, the group up as 5 and steamroll down a single lane from Rogue Warriors. And Snake, they've got themselves that late game scaling. They've got Kai'Sa and Gangplank, along with the Trundle and Galio to stand in the front line for them. It'll all come down to execution to see whether it works out.
Yeah, it definitely is. Both sides have showing very distinct styles. Rogue Warriors, there's lots of gap closers, there's lots of sudden crowd control, and the ability to follow up with the Braum as well. This is what they like. They like to run at you. For Snake, they're going for the more defensive side of the matchup. They're slower to scale. Kai'Sa's not going to come online until at least 2 items. The same thing about Gameplink as well. So overall, the match is going to be about how much can Rogue Warriors actually take away from the early game.
We're about to find out. This should be a big call out towards Kiwi, the new jungle to replace Flawless. Can he match the aggression of someone who essentially lives inside the enemy jungle, especially playing against a player like SOFM, who is also known for invading on the far side, known for his very clever and unique pathing. As we load onto the Rift, Snake are fighting for their final playoff spot. If they can lock down a win here, they got one more step ahead of FPX, but now it's time to hear the fans cheer for their favorite teams. An unexpected amount of volume with the Rogue Warriors chants. This new team to the LPL, freshly franchised. This is their second split. Has got so many fans all over China off of their lively personalities following off the back of Doinby and the likes of his team.
I wouldn't necessarily call them lively personalities because you do have someone like SMLZ that we call Smiles.
He's got a colorful personality.
Okay.
You learn how to read his expressions.
A lot of those chants were in for SMLZ. They call him Ma Ge in Chinese. Taking a look at the runes, we are seeing the Spirit Predator Gragas being very popular recently after the LCK playoffs.
So much mobility, and it sets up for engage so well, because then you don't have to flash, body slam, cast backwards. You just run at them very quickly, toss the cast backwards, and then follow up with the body slam auto.
Yeah, it's much easier to land your initial stun when you are using the Predator. You can go through wards without any trouble whatsoever. And interestingly enough, SMLZ is also going for the non-poke build, the on-hit build, Lethal Temple being selected, just to deal with laning phase better.
Should also provide some pretty good shred later on if he manages to get a few items under his belt as that wave gets pushed in, as expected from the Kai'Sa Kench combo against a Varus pretty early on. The Acathian Rain, very good at pushing and clearing those initial few minions.
Yeah, I would say that this lane should favor SMLZ overall. He should have to push, but of course Rogue Warriors did leash for their bottom lane, and that should be the main difference. We are seeing, however, SOFM getting a better pathing read so far, already taking away the blue buff on Rogue Warriors' side, while Kiwi is in a perilous position.
Yeah, he's trying to vertical jungle, but Snake collapse onto the blue buff and force Kiwi out of there. He didn't have Smite just yet, but he's going to loop back around, and he does have a ward in the pit as the wave resets. So instead, he just decides to go for the Wolf Camp to match the vertical jungling of SOFM on the other side of the map.
So overall, he should be able to equalize in camps, but he will be a little bit slower. We're seeing a great trade coming out from Gogol, tagging the area of effect damage onto Doinby, even through the Twilight Shroud. Now, you are obscured when you are in the Shroud, which means you can't be targeted even if they see you, much like the scanner, but you can still be hit by the area effect abilities.
And I think that's where the strength of Galio is starting to come in as we see that trade happen time and again. Flandre walks into the turret to take some damage against Holder and try and control this lane, already opening up a CS advantage, knowing that SOFM did go for that vertical jungle and slowed him down quite a bit. Kiwi finally gets in to steal away that camp as SOFM finishes off the Gromp and escorts him back out of there.
Yeah, this is not a matchup that Gragas wants to play into early on. Just in terms of the melee damage, Trundle's got you on lockdown. He will definitely defeat you in this scenario. So I do kind of like what Snake has been doing. They set themselves up for a pushing bot lane, but also invading on the top side as well, getting both sides on a good start.
Now SOFM is stepping into Kiwi's jungle. Doinby trying to keep himself close to full health as it seems like he's having some difficulty matching the early wave clear of this Galio. Though luckily energy means he's able to take those trades without too much concern for sustain, as SOFM and Kiwi, they're just skirmishing around for vision right now. This is always the test whenever somebody new plays against SOFM. It's how do you play around his incessant invading, his incessant tracking? Because this man is in love with the Raptor camp. He will go to the ends of the earth to take away both Raptor camps on any side of the map.
SOFM is still definitely our premier pathing jungler. If you look at his gold difference at 15 minutes, it's actually up to 800. So, of course, a lot of that was slanted by the earlier portions of the split where you did have gold funneling going around. But even in the recent months, he still has a lockdown in terms of taking away jungle paths, dancing around the opponent jungler, and getting those CS leads. And when you give him a matchup like Trundle versus Gragas, where he is favored, then he can really snowball that vision and take away the early Ocean Drake. Now, we've seen this being done by Karsa quite often as well. You can do it as early as level 3, and it does swing laning phase incredibly heavily towards your side.
That sustain provides so much, especially when top lane is already pushing against Holder, and mid lane, Guoguo on this Galio, he's going to have to start worrying about that level 6 power spike. SOFM is trying to finish it off. It's down to about 1,000 health. Has to smite early as Rogue Warriors collapse and say thanks for the gift and take the buff and walk away.
And a bit of miscalculation, especially coming from the bot side. The problem there was that they lost control of the wave push, and it's such an easy set play. Everyone understands that Trundle level 3, level 4, there is that potential for him to solo the Drake, and they just call him out on it. So massive tempo loss coming in from Snake.
Yeah, that early game hasn't exactly been a strength for them in the past, especially with their lanes, but now with Rogue Warriors, with that Ocean buff, with this scaling and engaged team, they are real scary. And that's a strategy that we've seen, just what we saw right now, that's a strategy we've seen them do so many times. Wait for the enemy mid laner to recall, get Doinby and Flawless or Kiwi, step into the top side jungle, and then either dive the top tier 1 or set up for a dive. We see it so many times, but luckily Flandre is able to step back from that wave and keep himself safe. And SOFM might be the one who's trying to look for a gank instead.
Yeah, this is more of a protective gank because he knows the wave is pushing up, and this is when he most expects Gragas to try and make a play. Oh, if you look at Light, he's actually very low HP.
Yeah, he's starting to struggle against SOFM, uses the Void Seeker and has to back away from the final 2 minions as that piercing arrow did hit him despite the Devour from Maestro.
Yeah, we can see the Blighted Quiver was also used to enhance the piercing arrow, giving that execute damage. Fortunately enough for Light, he does have the teleport. We do have to remember teleports are actually, this cooldown was actually nerfed.
Increased,
so
yeah.
You do need a 6-minute window before you can use another teleport. And that places Kai'Sa at kind of an awkward situation. There's a lot of chances where you don't get your first completed item and then you have to walk back to lane.
Luckily, it looks like we're seeing Light go for Stormrazor's Kai'Sa. The build path isn't too wacky now that it's double longsword dagger. So the buys, if he finds himself being pressed into this lane, shouldn't be too concerning as he's already got the core component of that BF sword. But look at the trades that SMLZ is just landing. They've already chunked the turret down to half, 8 minutes in. And despite it being even in CS, if that turret goes down, that CS differential is going to do nothing for you if SMLZ and Killua are unlocked to move around the map.
And Rogue Warriors at this point, their bot lane can just play the pushing game. They have the Ocean Drake, they have the sustain coming in from the Cutlass as well. So it's actually very easy. They're playing PvE in the bot lane. And the way things look, Snake is probably going to lose their first outer tower, their first brick gold, before 12 minutes.
Wave after wave crashes in. SOFM was hovering on this side of the map as he went for blue buff. He's pinging it now to try to pass it over, but Doinby seems to have the timing a little bit faster on lock than SOFM as he just gets control of the wave and will get the chance to try and sneak around. Once again, Kiwi will counter-invade SOFM and take advantage of this. So we are actually seeing an advantage open up for Kiwi by getting a little bit faster on SOFM, taking that momentum of collapsing on the Ocean Dragon and riding that wave, however small it is.
Definitely an easy call from Kiwi. He saw that Gogo was going in for the buff take. Instant invade into the Raptors, and part of it is how strong his mid lane actually is. If you look at the CS differential, then you will notice that Doinby is over 20 CS ahead. Now, I personally feel like Galio is a decent matchup into the Akali, but even then, we've been seeing the lane strength of Akali really be one of her main features. 3 times she was picked in the LPL, and all 3 times she was able to get a close to solo kill on the opponent mid laner at level 6. She just does so much early burst damage. Like, her numbers are absolutely insane. She really does remind me of MSI Aurelia. When BDD picked it up and Xiaohu was on Sion, nobody thought Sion was going to die, and then Aurelia just finished him level 6, just straight up. That's what's happening with Akali these days.
Oh, look at that. The Abyssal Voyage, Chains of Corruption. Killua gets the Glacial Fitcher as SMLZ tries to get out of there. Plasma will proc as Maestro gobbles up SMLZ, spits him back in. He's got no flash and will die. First blood to Snake's bottom lane.
Great balancing act from Snake right here, using Maestro and SOFM to wrap behind Rogue Warriors. However, they do have to escape from the casket.
Kiwi and Doinby are there. That's the subjugate onto Killua as the Pillar of Ice forces a disengage from SOFM. Even Guogol was stepping out of lane just in case he needed a hero's entrance in, but it does work out for Snake. They find themselves getting that kill and at least slowing SMLZ down.
I actually felt like the casket was misaimed. They probably had the option to go for Maestro, and if you notice Doinby, he did not expend his ultimate in the mid lane. That could have been a very easy kill there, but they decide to play it safe.
Kiwi and Doinby walking back to lane to catch these minions. And playing it safe is something that is important. There is a lot of snowball potential for both sides. As we take a look at that once again. Just the Abyssal Voyage to send the Trundle into the back.
Yeah, you gotta love this play. It's such a classic coming out from Snake. Tahm Kench is their most played support on both of their supports as well. And you can see they're definitely very familiar with the execution. SMLZ grieves a little bit for the tower, steps up, thinks that the Tahm Kench might be backing, and they catch him off of that.
That opens up. Still, though, we are seeing Rogue Warriors try and control this bottom lane. Yes, one gank will slow him down, as Stormrazers was actually completed on Light off of that first blood gold. But
Yikes.
SFM is right on top of a ward.
Yeah, it's definitely not some place you want to be, because Rogue Warriors definitely have an answer for this. You can see at Crux already, Kiwi is setting up for the potential counter gank. He knows there's a possibility of a 4-man coming in. And Doinby, as soon as he clears the wave, comes into the river, tries to lend his assistance.
Level 10 versus level 7, the flash engage. Double perfect execution. No, but that's the stopwatch from SOFM to deny the second tick of damage. And SOFM is allowed to flash and walk away. Doinby on the hunt for a kill, but does not find it.
All right, that damage is too damn high.
Oh, yeah. And that was without the second tick of perfect execution.
Yeah. Akali right now, I feel like she's a bit overtuned. A lot of her damage is front-loaded, and the only answer that we've really seen against her is to pick tanky champions. We've seen the Mundo being picked into Flandre's Akali because most of her damage is actually tied to the execute in her ultimate, and if you can't take someone low, then she doesn't do as well. But against most targets, like, who aren't tanks, she has way too easy of a time.
We've seen it all across the world in NA and here in the LPL. And that should be more opportunity for Doinby to show his stuff on the champion. 32 CS ahead of Guogwo, while the junglers are showing a 6 CS lead for Kiwi as he's slightly ahead of SOFM, who's managed to catch up and keep pace just a little bit. That does mean that Rogue Warriors managed to take themselves their second dragon, that cloud. You can see the next dragon will also be a cloud. And they're going to try and control the map with some of that vision as Doinby just walks in for trade after trade.
And he has the sustain to do so. The Hextech Gunblade already being finished. So overall, Rogue Warriors, their laning phase strategy is so simple.
SMLZ walks up to finish the turret at the cost of his own life. He does get first brick and nearly kills Light. But Rogue Warriors seem to be fine with that trade.
They definitely are. They're just looking at their next rotation on when to send their, where to send their AD carry. I don't think that Snake can actually do substantial damage to the bot lane turret. Indeed, they're going to give up on the push, and it's going to be about anticipating where SMLZ goes next.
See, he's about to spawn, got himself a Blade of the Ruined King and now a pickaxe, as it appears that he's looking for that Gwynsu's to stack up some huge blight, and now is swapping towards the top lane. Snake seem to be prepared for that. They're sending Light and Maestro to match it, which shows that Snake, they've actually shown some unprecedented preparation in this matchup, in how they have set themselves up with this composition to enable scaling into the late game, to play towards their teamfight style, and play towards SMLZ's tendency to occasionally overstep when he feels he has an advantage, almost Uzi-like.
I would have to say overall, though, this is not something that Snake actually wants to walk into. The lane matchup still favors the Varus and the Braum quite heavily. So my read on this was Snake actually wanted Varus to go towards the bot lane. They wanted to avoid that matchup, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. You could see that Light was a little bit hesitant to go towards the top side. He was like, oh no, is it SMLZ again? And Rogue Warriors right now, they're just looking to repeat what they did in the bot side.
Ooh, Guoguo's doing some good damage. Doinby uses the perfect execution and still gets the solo kill. Thumbs up, he says, as Guoguo head in hands. He just didn't do the math.
It's really hard to do the math on Akali here. Sustain is actually incredibly high. Both ticks of the five-pointed stars can give you extra sustain, and with the Hextech Gunblade, you can see how the trade evolved over time. Doinby was actually taken down to 20% health rather early on, but he was able to get all of it back.
And off of that, Rogue Warriors look to take the second turret of the game. Mid-tier 1 broken, and they've still got that strong lane matchup in the top with SMLZ and Killua versus Light and Maestro. And again, it's just the bait. He looks so low health, but once he gets the mark, Doinby just plays it flawlessly.
Yeah, it gets the extra slow on the max range of the five-pointed star as well, and it's so hard to deal with Akali. If you're a tank champion, you don't actually have kill threat on them, but if you're like a squishy, then she finishes you off so easily. So I really do think Akali is going to be one of those mainstay mid laner champions for quite a while.
She is real strong with all of that damage that she's doing, and Doinby is still sitting on a lot of gold. Finally, he completes the recall, completed Sorcerer Boots and the Oblivion Orb.
Hey, coming out of the base with 30 magic penetration. Good luck, Light. Good luck, Light.
I mean, he's got himself the Rod of Ages for raw health and Merc Treads to try and deal with it, but if he died once, he's going to have to be a lot more careful without that tier 1 to keep him safe. Now that Doinby's making his way back out.
And here's the even scarier thing about Akali is that as an assassin, she's one of the few that can go into a side lane, and because her build naturally has sustain, she can stay there and split push against top laners. She actually wins most of those duels as well. So we were talking about how Snake want to, maybe get Flandre ahead and split the map up. He's not going to be contesting against Holder anymore. He's going to be contesting against
Doinby, which we
like
see right here. That's the hero's entrance and perfect execution to escape from that, but he just came out of base and Flandre is already at half health. Spotting him over there, and SOFM on the other side of the map, SMLZ, Killua, and Kiwi walk up to the top tier 1 and take it down to about 75%, but they are so emboldened by the strength of their mid laner and the scaling damage that it does, even going so far as to use the Rift Herald up here, despite knowing SOFM is there as well. They're going to try to break down this turret.
Snake really have no answer whatsoever. They are waiting for their 2-item spikes, especially on Light, but that's still a long ways off. And in the pregame, our main question was how much could Rogue Warriors take? I believe they've taken enough. They definitely have enough in the bank to snowball this game to a clean finish.
Killua was even going so far as to defend the Herald. SMLZ split from the side with the Pillar of Ice, but Killua still looks to go in the cast. Onto SOFM, he dashes back, Chains of Corruption, but Maestro picks him up with the Devour. SMLZ still split. Light looks to go in, procs the Plasma, but Killua was able to survive by using Stand Behind Me. Maestro forced to flash away, stopwatch on top of this. SMLZ still chasing it down, flash from Maestro. But even Doinby has found Guoguo and forced him to back away.
Yeah, and the entire top side does fall to Rogue Warriors in the end. Both teams exchanged a lot of ultimates, but I would still say that it still favors Rogue Warriors quite heavily. Snake really needed to find a kill or two rare there to kind of equalize and slow the pacing down, but with a failure to do that, they're now pretty much relegated into their own second ring of towers, and Rogue Warriors could easily strip away the Drakes, could easily take away everything in the jungle.
It feels like that's what we're seeing already. 3 turrets to 0. The top tier 2 already taking a big chunk from that Rift Herald. SMLZ and Killua hanging out by that dragon with Kiwi on his way to that side of the map. And it's still 40 seconds until that Baron buff. Now, Snake are playing towards the top side of the map. They have nearly got teleport for Flandre. As SOFM, ooh, lucky for him that Scuttle Crab took the mark. Otherwise, Doinby might have been ready to look for a quick fight, a quick kill.
Okay, here's the light
there
combo.
Goes.
30
That's
match
it.
pen.
Light tries to dodge it, looks for the outplay, and gets destroyed. Flandre still completes the teleport, though. Doinby just used perfect execution to leave.
Yeah, it's technically a 1v4 scenario, but Doinby plays it with very, very chill. I'm actually quite surprised that Light actually stayed in the top side after spotting out Doinby. There was no way that his teammates could actually save him in time. You're talking about a really fed Akali with 30 magic pen. You're going to die before the Abyssal Voyage finishes. So
yeah.
That was definitely a mistake coming out from Light.
It's always the 80 carry problem of like, oh boy, I really wish I could afford a Hex Drinker right now.
I just want to push this wave.
I actually don't even think
6 minions are worth it.
Yeah, I don't even know if the Hex Drinker would actually help in that scenario, because take a look at the gold. He's 2,200 gold ahead of Guogwa. And already, with another thumbs up, SMLZ and Flandre, they know that this is a friendly match. Snake have not dropped a game against, or sorry, Rogue Warriors have not dropped a game against Snake this split. The last time they played it was a 2-0 for Rogue Warriors. And with how Rogue Warriors are setting up the game here, it looks like we might be seeing more of the same.
Yeah, stylistically, Rogue Warriors is such a hard matchup for Snake to actually counter, because what Rogue Warriors are the best, as they are the bunker busters. They will not let a team turtle down and try to wait for the late game. They'll 5-man it, they'll group up together, and the Snake strategy, I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't try to go with something different, try to match fire with fire. Instead, they went back to this, let's wait for 3 items or 2 item spikes, let's wait for the 30-minute mark. And against Rogue Warriors, there's just such a slim chance that that's going to work.
So risky, yeah. They were able to get that first blood onto Light. He's also got the only 2 kills on his team, but he's down 45 CS. And there's that split push you were Akali talking about, making it even less safe for the Kai'Sa to farm elsewhere and look for that 3rd item. Doesn't even have boots 2 yet, as Doinby is just maneuvering between vision, applying threat in 2 lanes just by having the only 2 kills of his team.
And that's really surprising once you mention it. There are only 2 kills in this game. But it feels like Snake are already buried 6 feet under. Yeah. Like, this is one of those rare games in the LPL where there's not a lot of fighting, but a lot of suffocating.
And Doinby with a quick dive destroys Flandre. That is something. That is a lot.
I really don't like the idea that Twilight Shroud allows you to evade tower damage. And that's exactly what you see right there. If you're underneath tower range, then the tower can spot you, but it can't hit you.
Actually looking for a pick. That's the Chains of Corruption on the SOFM as he steps forward. Snake, they try to look for something, but SMLZ simply stands his ground and fires. And Snake can't keep up with the damage. Here comes the wave as it pushes in. Flandre's still dead for 10 seconds, which means there's no cannon barrage. Doinby dives forward and finds SOFM. Doesn't have the perfect execution, but he doesn't need it because his team is just so powerful. They're able to look under the inhib, and they find a double kill. I'm pretty sure he's got all of the kills of his team right now. He goes golden butt holder, snacks it away, and picks himself up his own double. The unofficial ace as Flandre respawns, but the tier 2 mid has been broken.
That looks like high schoolers picking on K-12 kids.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very bloody scene coming up from the Rogue Warriors. Now, I feel like Snake's early attempt was incredibly half-hearted. Like, I was talking through it because I knew nothing was actually going to come of it. You can see the disengage on Rogue Warriors. It's all set. And for Snake, they tried something, but they're just so far behind at this point. The map control is so firmly in Rogue Warriors' hands. And SLFM, once again, meets Doinby on his side of the map and instantly evaporates.
Light gets exhausted. Doinby walks under the turret, picks up the double. Uses stopwatch to reset aggro and allow Holder to tank that final hit for him. Hextech Ultimatum, then immediately walking away to pick up aggro before Doinby comes out of the stopwatch. This is just better communication, better play, and Rogue Warriors are pulling Snake across the map by their tail.
This was just straight steamrolling from Rogue Warriors, really stepping on the major weaknesses of Snake.
Uh-oh. Did Light just pick up red buff to give to Doinby? As Doinby walks up, I believe that's even the Ignite being used. Plasma is hit. Gogo on the far side, but SMLZ, he's taunted, but that means that he can free fire. That's the barrel. SMLZ, he's got no flash, no position. Finally dies, but Doinby goes in. He gets one. He's looking for two as he gets one tick. Flandre narrowly survives, but will die over the walls. It is a double kill. The 5-point strike is able to lock it down, and now they're looking for the inhib.
The second double kill coming in from Doinby, and then Holder getting in on the action as well.
Finds himself one kill and forces SOFM back onto the fountain while the rest of his team finish off the inhibitor turret. Rogue Warriors have not dropped a single turret this game. They are 11 kills to 4. It's a rough match, Clement.
Just a complete steamroll coming out from Doinby and crew. Like, you can see the laning phase, Doinby was already 20 CS ahead by his own. And just the balls to go in like that. He's 1v2 and his teammates aren't really even close to the situation, but he's still willing to push Snake away.
Kiwi's cask knocked Guoguo while he was channeling the taunt into SMLZ and prevented him from kiting back. He still did massive damage, which set up Doinby for all the executions here. So it's a bit of a tragedy, but even with that mistake, they were able to chase down these kills as Doinby's on the hunt for another one.
He's on the hunt for Legendary, just one kill away, and there's nowhere for Flandre to go. No stopwatch either.
Barrage. Zhonya's is ready. Look at that grand entrance, and Doinby just heals up so much.
That is the current Akali builds we are seeing. Do take extra spell vamp on their runes as well. The Ravenous Hunter being selected. And usually Taste of Blood as well.
But now with that middle inhibitor down, Rogue Warriors prep a wave top, shove it into the tier 2. Looks like it might break while also taking the Infernal Dragon. While Doinby split pushes in a side lane. This is why Rogue Warriors are locked into first place in the West Conference.
They just make mincemeat out of the rest of these teams. And I think here's the major issue that if you look at the Western Conference, most of their teams, all of their teams outside of Rogue Warriors have very big weaknesses. If you're talking about EDG, they can't really late game 5v5 against Rogue Warriors. If you're talking about Snake, they lose their bot lane towers so early on against the pressure coming out from SMLZ. And if you're talking about TOP, well, we saw what happened there as well. In the mid game, Rogue Warriors just ran over them with their better teamfight cohesion.
5,000 gold ahead. Doinby is that big compared to Guoguo. Even in the top lane, we're seeing, what is that, 2,300 gold ahead of Flandre. Holder on that Camille versus Gangplank off of the CS advantage that he's picked up. Flandre's trying to hold the fort down in the bottom lane, but Doinby is everywhere across the map, just trying to pull Snake apart and absolutely succeeding. The only teams that have managed to be successful against Rogue Warriors were IG. It's a bad time to go into that point as Maestro face checks into a brush, looking for vision around the Baron, but gets knocked into a cask and pulled right back in. Guoguo sets up the Demacian shield.
Incredibly good pillar.
Yeah.
That was an incredibly good pillar from SOFM. It blocked out the damage positions from Rogue Warriors and forced them to walk around, or else Maestro was pretty much dead at that point.
Oh no, and they go right back to the same brush. Teleporting, they're going over the wall this time. SOFM is the target. While Doinby finds himself getting a kill, SOFM dies on the bottom side. We'll go flashing over the wall to safety as Doinby heals himself up after a few minions. Holder chases Guoguo back, tactical sweep, and he gets him with the Hextech Ultimatum. Guoguo will be able to escape with the hero's entrance, but goes right onto Doinby and has to be scooped away by Maestro. Rogue Warriors, with super minions coming down the mid lane, they might be looking to end this game 1.
Rogue Warriors Korean players are just too much to handle. Both of them getting multiple kills in this game all the time. Both of them winning their lanes hard and being that 1-3-1.
That's a good taunt landing from Guoguo, but he's got no backup. He's got no support. Light is dead, and Flandre doesn't have enough. Rogue Warriors turn onto the Nexus and break it down, smashing Snake in game 1.
And it just looked like such an easy process for Rogue Warriors to take down Snake. Everything by the book. You hurt Snake where they are the they are the weakest. Guo hasn't really been stepping it up in terms of his own champion pool. He does like to go for the later game. Again, things like the Azir or the Ryze. And in the bot lane, Snake just don't put enough resources into the bot lane or enough counter picks to actually make that a functioning lane against someone like SMLZ.
And despite the attempted ganks, despite the attempt